Okay, another way of solving quadratics is using square roots. Now, I'm going to tell you that square roots work and are great when you have perfect squares. When they're not perfect, then it is harder to use this method and it would not be the preferred method. But if you do have perfect squares, then you can easily use it. Okay, so we're going to look at this one together. We have 3x squared minus 75 equals 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x. Okay, so we add the 75 both sides, which gives us 3x squared equals 75. Divide by 3, divide by 3, we get x squared equals 25. Is that a perfect square? Yes, it is. So we can do the square root is the opposite of squared, so we get x equals 5. Now, you have to think about this. What times itself gives me 25? Positive 5 times positive 5 gives me 25, but also negative 25 times negative 5 gives me 25. So when you do take the square root, it's usually positive and the negative 5. Okay? All right, so I'm going to do another example down here. Let's do B. So we're going to minus 15, minus 15. We get 3x squared equals negative 15 divided by 3, so x squared equals negative 5. Now, think about it. Any number times itself, can that give me a negative number? No, it cannot. A positive times a positive gives me positive. Negative times a negative gives me positive. So if you have a squared number equals a negative, that is a no solution. It will not work. So if you were to graph this, it would probably be up here. It would never cross the x-axis. Now, if you could graph this one, it would cross at 5 and negative 5. So it's something like this. Okay? All right, so that is using square roots. So let's go into your foldable. This should be the second one that you've glued in today. All right, so we're going to do some examples together, and then I'm going to let you do some on your own. Okay, so let's look at example number 1. Okay, so if I add 25, so we get k squared equals 25. So we take the square root, which is the opposite. So k equals plus or minus 5. So your two answers are 5 and negative 5. Okay, so that's a pretty simple one. All right, so let's do example number 2. We do minus 19, so we get p squared equals negative 9. Now, that is a perfect square, however, it is a negative. So we cannot square root a negative number. Any number times itself will not give us a negative. So that is a no solution. Okay, so let's look at example number 3. Okay, we're going to divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3, we get x squared equals 9. Okay, so if I take the square root, what's the square root of 9? It is 3. So x is, remember, it can be positive or negative. So my two solutions would be 3 and negative 3. Okay, we're going to look at number 4. Again, this is an example showing you a perfect square. However, if this were the option, this would probably not be the preferred option for this. Okay, so we get b squared by itself, so we have to times by 2. Okay, so we get b squared equals 50. Now, that is not a perfect square. However, if we look back here, 25 was. So if you remember back when we were doing square roots, you can pull out a perfect square. Okay, so do the square root. What is the square root? Okay, so b is, my perfect square within it is 25 and then times 2. So if I do the square root of 25, that is 5, and leave the square root of 2. And remember, that still can be plus or minus. So b is positive or negative 5 square root of 2. Now, again, that would probably not be your preferred method for this one, but you can do it. All right, so let's go on down to example number 5. So we're going to add 20, so it's just like solving equations. 3b squared equals 108. And then we're going to divide by 3. So we get b squared equals, let's see, I'm going to go in 3 times and 6 times. So what's the square root of b squared? Square root of 36. So b is plus or minus 6. Okay, hopefully that's making sense to everybody. All right, and let's look at example number 6. I'm going to clear off above so we have some space. Shift this up a little bit. All right, so solving equations just like we have been. So plus 42 plus 42. So we get 2h squared equals positive 20. Divided by 2, we get h squared equals 10. Okay, now we do the square root here. Now this is not a perfect square. There's no perfect squares in it either. So what I would do is leave this as h equals plus or minus the square root of 10. Okay, so this is if you were using the square root method. Now this works with perfect squares only. It is not the preferred method if you do not use perfect squares. Okay, so that is using perfect squares. We're not going to do this last section because another method would be much more beneficial there. Okay, so you're going to work some examples together in class, and then your homework is going to be on page 267 and 268. I will let you know if you're doing all or odds or evens. Okay, thank you.